And now for a deeper insight into this turnout, with us now is Fiorella Isabel, a journalist and host of the program Convo Couch. Welcome, Fiorella.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, it's our pleasure to have you here. So, Fiorella, what is the main focus of the national media on this event, these presidential elections, and how much does it differ from or reflect the nation's current take on the electoral process?
Well, this is a very interesting outcome. It was going to be very hard for Gustavo Petro to actually win because he had to win by 50% plus one. And that would have been a very difficult thing to achieve, particularly because of the way they have framed his candidacy. Gustavo Petro, by all accounts, is a center-left type of candidate. But, of course, he was being framed by the U.S. State Department, by the establishment of Colombia as being Maduro-like, as receiving money from Nicolas Maduro. In fact, President Ivan Duque accused who believed that Juan Guaido is the legitimate president of Venezuela, believed Juan Guaido when Juan Guaido accused without evidence that Gustavo Petro was taking money from the Maduro regime. But then, of course, the United States and the ambassador to Colombia also talked about Russian influence in the elections, which is why they sent the FBI here. And the OAS, of course, also made their presence well known. And it's just that I think took away from some of his candidacy that could have expanded further. Francia was a very potent vice president. She is, a Black woman, and she is working class. And in a country that tends to be extremely conservative and has been a neo-colonial de facto state of the United States and has lived under constant bloodshed and neoliberalism, it's amazing that Gustavo Petro got this far, and it just signifies that there is a change that these people want. In fact, they have reiterated, because I spoke to many activists and people in the political sphere here in Colombia, and they've reiterated this isn't a fight against capitalism. This isn't a fight for communism, that this is a fight to have some sort of democracy, to really live in a republic, to be able to have a normal life without people dying in the streets, especially the youth. And so the way the media has portrayed it as this left, right issue is really not fair. And the reason I think Hernandez did so well, it's because he labeled himself a populist, and right now was able to get some of the youth as well.
So, one of the latest updates regarding the outcome of these elections, Figo Gutierrez said he will endorse the Hernandez candidacy for the second round. Hernandez as a candidate for the right-wing coalitions and the right-wing political landscape and political side in Colombia. So, which is this maneuver representing for Colombia and for Colombians itself? Because we know Petro is leading the pack. He is way ahead from the other contenders. But at this time, this support, this bolstering from Figo to Hernandez, which is the meaning behind this move? Which is this move representing for Colombians?
Right. So this is a very precarious situation and not a good one for the fans of Petro, because if you combine Fico's and Hernandez's points, they surpass or make it very difficult for Gustavo Petro and Francia Marquez to win in the second round. It's just going to be extremely difficult. They would have to really go out and get more votes, more people who didn't vote. They would have to go and really convince others to come to their side. And a lot of the talk here in Bogota is that Hernandez was the real Uribista candidate, that he was not the guy that they discounted him. He didn't attend most of the debates, and they thought Fico was going to be the real, right winger. But in reality, it seems like Hernandez, as you can see, with Fico's alignment with him, is actually the real, the more difficult adversary in this case, because like I said, he is able to get a lot of the youth vote, and he is able to position himself as being some sort of anti-establishment. I mean, one of the activists here compared him to a mix between Trump and Zelensky, and he has spoken favorably about Hitler. And so he's not some sort of, anti-establishment candidate, but in a country that is so asleep, very much like the U.S. and very much like other countries in Latin America that have been plagued by neoliberalism. Hernandez has a real shot at becoming the winner the second round, and I think that was part of the plan. And I think that this alliance that you're seeing Hernandez form with Fico is actually a part of the whole plan after all. And the only other person that could have provided points to Gustavo Petro would be Fajardo, and he didn't amass enough points. So it's really, to me, this is not a good thing. I think Petro would have had to have won in the first round in order to really secure a victory. And so what does this mean for the people of Colombia? That perhaps they're still going to continue in this trend towards a right-wing neoliberal agenda. And, they've told us as much that they're willing to go out in the streets and continue fighting because so much blood has already been shed that they've lost the fear because they've had to endure so much.
Yeah, now I have another question. Let's put aside the presidential candidates. Let's put aside Petro and Hernandez. Let's talk a little bit about the other side of these formulas, because out of the 8 parties, just 3 women were running for vice president. And in this case, the 2 main women that were contending, now they're standing as the vice presidential candidates for the second round. That is to say, Francia Márquez and Marlene Castillo. So, what can we interpret, what can we understand out of this result, out of this outcome, what they are bringing to the table, because they are both women, they are both black women, Afro-descendant persons, for to say such a thing. So what can we expect from these complements, these 2 vice presidential candidates who are female and who are different from all the historical vice presidential candidates in Colombia?
Yeah, I think Francia Márquez is the one to watch. She really comes from a humble background. Obviously, she is Afro-descendant, but she also comes from a more radical background. And I think that's what they've tried to use to dismiss Petro, to try to make him look like a more radical than he was. She is the one that's actually a lot more progressive and a lot more of a challenger to the establishment. And I think that the people of Colombia, specifically in the regions near the Caribbean and the regions where she is from, need to really come together and organize, because she is really likable and popular all over the world right now. And I think they need to capitalize on that, because this would be historic in such a country like Colombia that is plagued by sexism, racism, and just a very conservative belief. And I think having Francia is really, it should be not looked at as a weakness, but looked at as, this is a woman that is a historic figure. She's strong, she's likable. She has really made a name for herself. And I think that's something that I think could actually benefit Gustavo Petro with the changing tides and the desire of the people of Colombia, especially the rural, indigenous peasantry of the region that has constantly been exploited, constantly been undermined. The FARC factions, all of this together is really where they need to look at, instead of trying to tread lightly and keep their distance from being looked upon as being too far left. Because at the end of the day, everybody here in Colombia knows this is about the democratic justice rather than any sort of political ideology.
So thank you so much, Fiorella, for sharing your insight here and from being with us and sharing your opinions and your time.
Thank you very much. See you next time.